Science and religion have had a complex relationship throughout history. They have often been at odds with each other, with scientific breakthroughs occurring in spite of powerful religious dogma. On the other hand, some of our most brilliant and influential scientists have been deeply religious. The conception that religion and science are completely incompatible is a relatively new idea. As in the past, belief in God was an integral, given aspect of human life. But now, science continues to answer many questions once attributed to God, and religious faith becomes more and more of a choice in the growing secular world. Both science and religion have been tools that man has used to understand the universe. One is based on evidence, fact, and observation. The other is predominantly based on faith, philosophy, and the teachings handed down from one generation to the next. Both are woven tightly into who we are as people and how we've grown as a society. Through most of time, those tools were utilized in tandem, often with little perceived contradiction. The word scientist wasn't even used until the 19th century. Previously, they were called natural philosophers. But in the last 2 centuries, science and religion have grown further apart than ever before. Now, religion claims to answer 2 fundamental questions. First, what is the nature of our universe? How does our world, and by extension man, exist? This is the mythology of the religion. And second, how should society function? What rules should we live by? How should we behave? These are the customs and moral laws. Now, science definitely speaks to the second point, as many argue that there is in fact a science of morality, and it is apparent that certain elements of our behavioral decisions can be traced back to our evolutionary origins. Many fields of study are expanding and influencing our conversation on ethical matters. But it's the first question where science has really chipped away at religious thought, as natural explanations continue to replace divine intervention. So what is the nature of our universe? Well, all religions describe the interplay between the natural and supernatural worlds. All religions have their own creation story, and then within that universe they create, all religious dogma lays forth the relationship of man and spirit, the hierarchy of powerful deities, spiritual creatures, and how they interact with our world. They detail historical events and tales that give life, meaning, and validity to their claims of factual and moral matters, always focusing on the singular race or culture that created that religion. Now, even though we can't test any of the supernatural claims Scripture says to be true, the majority of people in the world believe these stories to some varying degree. So what happens when scientific discovery refutes these religious teachings? What if our understanding of the universe conflicts with Scripture? When this occurs, which it always has, believers can do one of 3 things. A. Deny the science is true and refute the validity of the evidence. B. Warp the data and theories to fit their own view of the world. Or C. Accept the evidence as fact and adjust their own beliefs to fit into how we actually understand the universe. Option C is the most rational, and has happened countless times throughout history as science drags religion slowly forward. But options A and B are unfortunately still pervasive in most religions, as science threatens their doctrine and control. Right now in America, there are many battles against anti-intellectualism, but the 2 most predominant are fought for evolution and climate change. Even though the evidence overwhelmingly supports both theories, the Christian right has no issue denying facts, or using pseudoscience and botched data to strengthen their own claims. The continuous denial of science by religion, the media, politicians, and corporations has caused people to be grossly misinformed about what science actually is. It's easy to refute something you have no understanding of. So let's set a few things straight. First, science does not set out to disprove God. There is no ulterior motive to the scientific process other than to seek the truth about how our universe works. For example, many religious people pretend that creationism has the same scientific weight as evolution, but creationism is not science. And it isn't because scientists are out to get God or disprove a creator. It's because no evidence has presented itself to come to the conclusion that a divine being created humanity. All evidence points to evolution that occurred over millions of years and is still occurring today. The only way religious speakers can combat this scientifically is to misinform the public. The scientific method and peer-reviewed research are wonderful, amazing things that make all scientific and technological advancements possible. So here's how the scientific method works. An hypothesis is made. The hypothesis is tested. The data either verifies the hypothesis or it doesn't. If it doesn't, then a new hypothesis is made according to the results and the process starts over. If the hypothesis is verified, a conclusion is made based on the evidence. That conclusion is then independently tested and verified by others to make sure that no errors or mistakes were made, or that the data isn't completely bogus. These verified conclusions eventually become facts, as no matter how many times they're tested or how much new data comes in, they still prove to be true. Eventually, enough evidence is collected to make broader claims, as a larger understanding about the world is revealed through copious amounts of testing in various situations. A model is created to predict future outcomes. This is a scientific theory. It is not the same as a theory in the vernacular sense. It is not a guess or an assumption. A scientific theory is an extremely high form of understanding because it is based on time-tested data, facts, and observation. With science, the conclusion comes last. But in religions like Christianity, the conclusion comes first, that a supernatural being created the universe. And any Christian trying to skew scientific research to verify a deity is functioning under a flawed methodology because they already know what the conclusion should be, no matter what the data may show. They are imposing their beliefs onto the reality of how the universe functions. Science has no beliefs until they are verified. There are no conclusions until there is evidence to believe them. Which brings me to my final point. Science does make mistakes. It's made plenty, some of which have been extremely detrimental to society. And some people argue that since scientific knowledge develops over time and our understanding of the world changes with new things we learn, it's not finite, so it is innately untrustworthy. If our understanding of the world is constantly shifting, then how can we really trust it? The idea of God answers all questions, so it must be more valid, because it gives us answers. But in actuality, the opposite is true. The scientific method is built to correct false conclusions. That's the beauty of it. The process is self-correcting and presents our best understanding of the natural world at any given time. Human knowledge should not be finite. If it were, then all advances, not just in technology, but in many forms of human growth, would never have been possible. Our collective knowledge continuously expands, and the only way for humanity to grow intellectually and socially is for us to accept new facts and learn from our past mistakes. Most Christians believe in the wonderful things that science has provided. It's in these points of consensus that we must reach common ground and fight for education that teaches actual science, and create laws that are based on reason and compassion and not pure faith. We must form real discussions that aren't mired with abstract ideologies. We need to focus on real issues that affect our communities, our countries, and our planet as a whole.